Are you someone who makes good money, but by the end of the week, you're left wondering, where did all that money go? If that sounds like you're in luck today because today I am honored to be here with Jacent Wamala, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a women's wealth coach. Welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to have this conversation and just hopefully help everyone listening out.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll read a little bit about you to share with the audience. So, you are a self published author and award winning podcast host with over 10 years of experience. And you've been featured on The Today Show, Good Morning America, New York Times, Shondaland, People, Fast Company, Bloomberg, and more. And you've paid off over $94,000 in student loans and credit cards in just 3 years. And that was before you turned 30. What an impressive background.
It's fun. It's been really cool and it kind of found me. It wasn't what I aimed to do, but sometimes you got to go with the direction that life is taking you and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about that. So you started off as working as a family and marriage therapist, and now you're working in finance. Well, would you say you're working in finance?
It's so interesting. I guess technically like in personal finance, but like I don't sell any products. I don't, like I
Yeah.
so yes and no. Yes and no. I'm in the personal finance space for sure though.
When was the moment that you had that switch? Like you were like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, I think it's funny because it was more of like these things that kept happening over time, if that makes sense. So I
Hmm.
don't think that it was like one moment. I think it was a collection of moments that came together to show me it was like confirmation, like you kept getting redirected back to this thing. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, all right, I'm gonna keep going down this way, fine. And I think it's just like fun. Like I really have fun helping women in this way. And the results our students are able to get are out of this world. So, there's a book called The Big Leap, and it talks about having a zone of excellence and having a zone of genius. And I had a private practice, I was seeing clients there. I also had started my online business around the same time. And I got pregnant with my son. And so it was like, okay, am I going to be running two businesses and have a newborn at the same time? Like, that didn't seem like the most nice thing to do to myself.
Hmm.
When I'm in the postpartum, I don't know if I want to say trenches, but like I really had to sit with myself to say, what's the most aligned thing for me in this season and what's most aligned for how I want to show up as a mom. And I had the privilege of being able to make that choice because of the choices I had made previously. And so my life is literally a testament to what I teach and what I share because the goal is to help more women have freedom and flexibility so that they can do what they want on their terms instead of feeling like they have to do things, based on the outside, circumstances. So I think it really is mission driven from the results I've been able to see in my own life, but also then I kind of thought I was a unicorn because I was like, okay, because people started asking me what I was doing and I shared and it naturally just unfolded. And I'm like, oh, people are getting results. Like, oh, we got some, oh, this seems like it's really working. It's helping folks.
Hmm.
And so it's just how do we spread that? Because there's so many women and the world's a better place when women have money and are at peace and not worried about it, that
Hmm.
it just, yeah, I think it's exciting. It's fun. I have a good time. I get to do fun stuff like this. Like, of being a therapist was cool too. I'm not going to lie, but that was my zone of excellence, not my zone of genius. I'm a
Hmm.
great therapist, but I'm an even better coach. So
Yeah. No, and I can attest to that because we had a call and it was just like a call to interview me for your channel and then you just got me moving. So I was like, I've been saying I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and like, you know what? Let me go do it right now.
I love it.
Yeah. So I mentioned that you paid off $94,000 of debt in 3 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I wasn't born in the States. I was born in Uganda and then, my family had immigrated here. So I think being first generation, and your family having to navigate a completely new economic system. Most people don't learn much about money growing up.
Mhm.
And so I know I didn't learn a lot about money growing up. So really it was like vague stuff like make sure you save, or like, don't go into too much debt or whatever, but it wasn't really like the playbook on how to make it happen, how to have financial stability. And
Mhm.
so by the time I got to college, I thankfully went to school in state, and I had gotten some scholarships. So that covered like my bachelor's degree for the most part. I think maybe I had like a couple $100 or something. But when I realized I wanted to go to graduate school, because I didn't know much about the system and like that there could be funding for that or whatever, my line of thinking was like, I need to not go into debt for my bachelor's so that I can like use all my debt essentially, right,
Uh-huh.
for my graduate degree.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's when I had gone into the bulk of the majority of debt that I was in grad school. But at the same time that I was in grad school, I unfortunately ended up getting divorced. And then after I got divorced, just a few months after that, my dad passed away.
I'm so sorry.
And so it was like this very short period of time where like life was getting turned inside out for me, and I didn't have a foundation of financial literacy. So at the same time that I'm grieving and having to deal with all these things, I'm in grad school. I
Wow.
don't know how to manage money. Like this is where it's all racking up. And so that's where I saw this intersection of mental health and money is like there's life circumstances that affect your finances that, we could never even consider or think about, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and so that was like 2014 to 2016. So by the end of 2016, my cousin had given me a book for Christmas. He always gave me books and I never read them. But this one I actually started reading. So by
Mhm.
January 2017, I was reading this book. I calculated my net worth. It was negative to my surprise, even though I should have known that, right? And that was, I guess, the trickle of events that were like, what are we doing? Like, where do we want to go? Because I had a master's degree, but I
Mhm.
only made like $17,800 in the year 2016. So, like, I was highly educated, right? Highly accomplished in certain ways, but
Mhm.
I had nothing to show for it financially. And for me, it was like, okay, well, I could keep going down this path and it's going to lead to more of what I already had. But something told me, like, what if you go down this other path? Like, what if you were able to get out of debt? What if you, learned how to manage your money better? What could that lead to? And that was the difference between, I think I've heard Les Brown talk about it, mindsight and eyesight. And eyesight is like what's right in front of you. My bank
Mhm.
account said, this is what was in it.
Mhm.
But that's only half of the equation. Mindsight is your vision, it's your ability to dream, it's your ability to be spiritually connected to forces that are greater than this physical material world, right? That
Mhm.
could work for you. So for me, it was collaborating with those two things, really deciding that I wanted to see what would be possible if I just changed a few things up. And in 2017, that's when I started managing my money better. That's when I started looking for more work, which I did. I ended up tripling my income by the end of that year. I moved in with my best friend, so there were some specific circumstances that helped me to leverage what I was doing, earning more money, and
Mhm.
then, having a low cost of living. Um, but I made more money and I put the money toward the debt. Like on that way, it's very simple.
Mhm.
But of course, there's like nuances, and if you want further details on it, then of course I can share. But yeah, that was really it. I just really wanted to prepare myself
Mhm.
for what could come because I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, but I was like, well, if I do get married, if I do end up having kids, what's the best way for me to prepare now to
Mhm.
make all that easier later? And if I'm a rich auntie, then I could just be a rich auntie. I don't got no kids. But now I've got them. So here we are.
Yeah. No, and that's so smart. I feel like not a lot of people think of it that way. Like, let me prepare myself for when the time comes. And I feel like that's something I can relate to you. I feel like I was like, I want to stay at home when I have my baby. And so, I did some things before. But I feel like for me, it's still an ongoing thing because I didn't come from money as well. So even if you do get to a certain point, there's still sometimes when you feel that, maybe you kind of step into your old ways a little bit and, or, you're just so used to doing things a certain way. But
100%.
yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to debt, I know it takes a lot of discipline. Um, Dave Ramsey mentions beans and rice, rice and beans. What are your thoughts on that?
I think everyone needs to follow a plan that's going to work for them.
Mm,
So if
yeah.
beans and rice, rice and beans works, cool, do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is a little bit different. I actually don't think you need as much discipline as we think we need. I
Really.
think discipline isn't the problem. I think distractions are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you need much less discipline when you're focused. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you got pregnant and you were carrying your baby, there were things that were very easy for you to not think about, not do, not, you know what I'm saying? Like it just made things very clear and you were focused on
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you took care of yourself, that you took care of your baby so that your baby was able to be born, healthily. And so I think that when you're focused, which has to do a lot with like vision,
Mm-hmm.
then it's easy to walk toward the thing. It doesn't take as much discipline as we think it does when you do the second part, which is systems. So instead of having to exert willpower and force to move,
Mm-hmm.
when you have focus in your vision and systems that are like your safety net, then your life is set up in a way that you make your goals inevitable. Like you make it so that it's hard to fail because of those things. So I think that uh of course discipline is a thing, but I think also psychologically we think people think of discipline as like a punishment
Oh,
when
okay.
discipline really is like the set up for freedom and success. Like the more disciplined you are, the more rewards you experience, the more flexibility you have. And so I think there's a psychological switch that has to like be pushed as well to
Mm-hmm.
see it differently too. That like the choices I'm making right now that I'm trading off are gaining me something later on. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that shift also helps too. Cause it wasn't that like I'm not the most disciplined person. You know what I mean? And you have more discipline than you give yourself credit for. You're disciplined enough to brush your teeth every day, enough to show up when you have meetings on your calendar, disciplined enough to when your baby wakes up, you wake up and do what you got to do for your baby. So it's like we have this muscle. We just are new at exercising it in this other area of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do we use this muscle we already have and transfer the skill over? So, I think we're better equipped than we think.
Yeah. So we just say it's more of saying no to distractions.
I think it's saying no, but like there's also just making it so that the distractions aren't even there for you to say no to. Like
Mm-hmm.
how can you create an environment and systems and processes in place? I told my friends, what I was doing when I was on my journey. It's not like they didn't invite me out or whatever to like eat and things like that, but it was that we were all on the same. My friends were like, "Oh, aren't you paying off debt?" Like when I would say stuff, I'm like, that's a part of having a safety net is
Uh,
accountability, right? And
okay. Yeah.
so there's no opportunity for me to slip off the path because I've designed everything. I've told everybody what it was, and I wasn't even asking for the support. I was just letting them know. But then they was like, "Well, we'll hold you accountable." I'm like, "Oh, great, got it." And having just, I really think it comes down to more so of like your strategy, your systems, and the support you have in place. Because then it's
Mhm.
like the distractions aren't even there. If Instagram isn't on your phone, are you going to go on Instagram? I don't have to say
Yeah.
no. It's not there. So
Yeah.
if there's no cookies in the house, am I going to eat cookies? No, it's not there. So I think
Mm.
how do we make it easy for ourselves to say yes to the things we want? You know?
Okay. I like that. Okay, I love those examples because yeah, that brought it clear to me. If you compare it to like fitness and nutrition.
Right.
I used to think I had to hustle, perform, and look perfect to be successful, until an accident forced me to slow down. I couldn't work out, I couldn't show up online, and suddenly I had to face what was underneath it all. That season revealed something I'll never forget. I was building a life on the outside, but I was out of alignment on the inside. God used that pause to redirect me, from striving to serving, from vanity to value, and from burnout to true wellness. And now I help other women do the same. That's why I created the 7 Dimensions community, a Christ centered community where you can finally align your spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, relational, financial, and vocational life with God's design. If you're tired of surface level faith and scattered goals and you know God's calling you to something deeper, this is a space for you. Join the waitlist in the description box below and join a community of women who will keep you accountable. All right, so we're back, and now I'm here with my baby. Had to take a quick break to feed him. Um, so going back to what we were talking about, when did you realize that wealth isn't just about money, but about wholeness?
I realized wealth wasn't just about money, but that it was about wholeness. Honestly, as I got more clear on how I really wanted to live my life, and I think that we get caught up thinking having financial freedom means like I'm going to be catching flights, I'm going to be eating what I want, I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to do. And for me, we're actually the majority of our life not on planes and the majority of our life not, shopping or whatever the case is. Really, the majority of our life we're spending, on whatever it is that we're passionate about with whoever we care about. And so for me, it's catching the little moments on a daily basis of like having the ability to this morning, get up with ease, no alarm needed, take my son to gymnastics class, know that I'm coming home and getting on this podcast with you and having the time and space to move with ease and not in a frenzy. I feel like it helps my nervous system, my spirit feels better. Like and it's a privilege because not everyone gets to do that. And there was a time where I used to work 7 days a week while I was on my journey. I don't prescribe my path to anyone else. I prescribe that you find your path because what wholeness is to me might look different than what wholeness is to someone else. Being a nomad, bouncing around and catching flights, whatever might be wholeness to someone else. But I think it really is an intrinsic kind of spiritual level of peace and stillness that you can have, regardless of what's happening on the outside, regardless of whether your bank account says it's negative or your bank account says that there's thousands and thousands of dollars in it. That there's this, I have this spiritual level of peace that no matter what's happening in the world or in my world, that I'm covered, that I'm cared for, that things are working out for me, even if it doesn't look like it right now. And so that is much beyond money, but learning how to manage my money, learning how to be a better steward and take care of my money instead of control it, which is a lot of what we hear. I want to take control of my finances. Helped me to see that.
Yeah, and I love that because I feel like a lot of people, whenever they think money, they think, like you said, luxury, first class trips, all those things, and in the end, really, you just, especially as a woman, like for me, I'm like, I just want peace. I want to be able to wake up whenever the baby's ready to wake up. I want to be able to, still do what I love to do and just do it at my own pace. So yeah, absolutely love that. He has some words to say too. What's the biggest money mistake you see women making that's quietly costing them the most?
The biggest money mistake I see women making that's quietly costing the most is procrastination. Because you know generally what you're supposed to be doing, which is like saving, paying down, debt, investing. But the paralysis of not knowing where to start, of not just trying and like trying, like doing things, making the mistakes, because a lot of women, and this could be a generalization, a lot of women that I have talked to deal with perfectionism. So they don't want to move until they feel like they see everything laid out. But that's not how things operate sometimes. Sometimes you have to learn along the way and take the step that's in front of you for, the next step to be revealed. And I was just listening to something before, we started this podcast, and it said when you are like a faith-filled person, you're not supposed to operate out of fear and scarcity. You're supposed to operate out of courage. And so you may only have the step that's in front of you to take, and then you're supposed to have the courage to take that step. And sometimes it's the courage to say no or to wait or go against the grain, but it's really about, I think, not getting held up for too long on, honestly, for a lot of women, like very simple decisions like, oh, I don't know how to save and pay off debt at the same time. Is it possible to save and pay off the debt? It's like the questions that we have, the thinking that's getting in the way of executing to hurry up and fail, hurry up and make the mistakes, and then get to where you want to go. The reason my students get such amazing results, the reason why Alicia joined our community a year ago, and she literally was on the brink of closing her private practice and going back to being a school counselor because it wasn't working. She's been able to pay off over $40,000 of debt in the last year alone, save $12,000 in her emergency fund, cash flow family trips to Disneyland and the Virgin Islands. So her and her husband are both entrepreneurs and on the same page in their marriage, having been married for like over 20 years now, and just now getting on the same page in their finances. The reason why all those things were possible in just 12 months was because she didn't procrastinate anymore, because we helped her figure out how to get past all the questions she had, and do it messy, start where she was at, get clarity and move. And so if you can't get that, if you can't get yourself moving on your own, then I would say you might need some help or support in figuring out the answers to your questions and what direction to move in, obviously from like, the right sources. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. I would argue it's costing women millions of dollars.
Yeah, no, and I would agree. I can relate to that. How you said like it's just the like just thinking about it and then never actually taking action. Like before our call, I was like, I know I'm supposed to do this. Had I done it? No. It literally took sitting down with you, and then I was like, all right. And then I talked to my husband. I was like, hey, we've been saying we're gonna do this, and we did it. And so yeah, sometimes we
As
just need
simple as
that
that.
person to be like, hey, you say you were gonna do this, go do it. Yeah, I love that. And why do you think we don't notice this until it's too late? It's been years. Maybe if I hadn't gotten a call with you, maybe it would be years from now, and I still wouldn't have started. We wouldn't have gotten the life insurance, started the investment account for our baby.
Yeah, I think it's that way because there's so much going on. Like we do legitimately have a lot on our plates. so so that is an actual accurate thing. Between motherhood, running a business, being a wife, being a human, having some level of maybe social life or friends, and like we just have a lot of plates that we're spinning at any given time. And so because we didn't learn a lot about money growing up, it's a new skill for us. So that means it's going to be harder in the beginning. There's a lot more to learn. There's a learning curve we have to get past. So we're not going to pick that over the other things, if that makes sense. Like this is a thing that kind of feels like it's not urgent, even though it's urgent. Like I can do this later. Oh yeah, like we just keep letting it fall to the bottom of the list. But then the bottom of the list is like 10 years later, and we're like, oh no, I should have done something different about that late before. So I think it really is like, yes, we have a lot of things on our plate, but with all those things on our plate, how do we become, and this turns into something else that comes with the money stuff. All the women that I talk to that deal with the money stuff also deal with like issues when it comes to like time management, energy management, so that they can design things in a way that they're able to have the time to look at their finances, to make the appointment, to talk to the person. And so a lot of the work that I end up doing is not just around money, but it's around reevaluating the design of your life and how to make it more conducive to your success overall.
And I love that. And you focus on women, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
we do only work with women now. I
Mhm.
have worked with some men, and the men get results too all the time anyway. My husband, before we got married, he paid
Mhm.
off 5 figures before we got married. And so the
Nice.
principles can work for anyone,
Right.
but in our community, we particularly only work with women.
Yeah. No, and I was gonna say I love that because I feel like sometimes, like right now, we're doing this podcast, and I had to feed my baby, and then I had him on right now, and then he was fussy, so I gave him to my husband, and I just feel comfortable doing that because I'm like, you're a mom too, you understand.
Right. And so there
Yeah.
are nuances to being a woman that I think make a difference. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
mixed co ed spaces, but where are there just like full on spaces for women to be completely vulnerable, to be completely honest, and just speak freely about their challenges and their fears and the things that they want, and why they're scared, or how they're excited about things. So I think really having just an exclusive space where women don't even have to think about that piece
Mhm.
helps. And of course there's plenty of co-ed places already, so I'm like, okay, well then those are options as well, but like over here
Mhm.
we're we're all about girl power over here.
Yeah, I love that. How would you say women can align their financial goals with their God-given purpose instead of just chasing income? Or is there a place and a time to just focus on money and pay off that debt?
I think that the idea of purpose is so interesting because I think we have a confused definition of purpose. I think we think purpose is a singular thing, like a job, or confusion with a position. So now it's like to become the leader, blah, 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 to become the CEO or to become a mom, any of those things. I actually think, so that we are using a common definition, that your purpose is your potential. And your potential is something that you can unravel or unleash or unveil in anything you choose to do. So your purpose while you're a mother is to be whoever you choose to be as a mother. But your purpose is also always to reach your potential in anything you choose to do. So if I choose to be a therapist, how can I reach my greatest potential in that? If I'm a mother, how can I reach my greatest potential? Think about trees and plants. They don't aim for anything. They just grow. Their goal is to just keep growing until they can't grow anymore. And I think that that's what our purpose is to grow until we can't grow anymore. How do we grow? For people that are faith filled, is walking in relationship with God. So no, there's not a time and a place specifically for money if you are a faithful person, because it's wrapped up in your spiritual relationship. You can't do them separately. They go together. It informs how you steward your money and what you do. Now, I do think that we want to make sure that what we're doing is aligned with what makes sense for us spiritually, but it's what makes sense for us spiritually, not what someone else tells us spiritually. So there's your individual relationship with God, and there's also obviously like the teaching and all of that that comes along with it. But I don't think that God wants us to be ashamed of ourselves or embarrassed or any of those things while we're learning how to manage money. And I think that's what comes along with it sometimes for folks in the process. Like they should know this stuff or they should be better or whatever the case is. And so I would say that it becomes an umbrella or a filter if you are a faithful person that affects, it colors, it changes how you see everything and how and what you do and how you do it. But you have to figure out what that looks like in your specific journey. So that's why I said I don't prescribe for anyone to do what I did. I prescribe
Mhm.
for everyone to go within themselves, to get honest and say, what is it that you know you want to be doing or are supposed to be doing, and how can you be more authentic to yourself in that journey?
Yeah. So, okay, so thinking, because I'm thinking about like jobs that I've had in the past. And I had jobs where I made good money. Um, I didn't love it. I wasn't passionate about it. I didn't feel fulfilled. Um, and then I tried different things, and but I mean throughout that time, I feel like it wasn't until I built a closer relationship with God and I started making him a priority that I feel like I found something that actually made me feel fulfilled, and it even aligned my finances. So, would you say like just making him a priority? And I love this Bible verse. Seek his kingdom. It's Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added onto you. Would you agree that if we make our relationship with God stronger, then not only will we feel more fulfilled in what we do, but our finances will also get aligned?
So, yes, I do believe that
Okay,
like
perfect.
when you focus and get aligned with God, that everything else is going to work out. I feel like it's the domino. And so there's a book called The One Thing. What's the one thing that will make everything else easier or unnecessary?
Mm-hmm.
Getting aligned with God will be the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary at some point, because it may not be easier in the moment, right? It may not feel best in the moment, right? Because discomfort promotes growth, and it's called growing
Mm-hmm.
pains, not growing feels good. But it will ultimately be the thing that opens up all of the
Mm-hmm.
doors that you need opened to get to where you want to go. And so I think the struggle really lies in trying to do things on our own instead of, doing what we can, but also knowing that we're working in collaboration and that we can just give it up.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things that can be taken care of for us, you know? So yes, did I pay off over $94,000 of student loans and credit cards in 3 years before I
Yeah.
turned 30? Yeah, but like I wasn't alone, like I had the whisper in my ear that I should go down in this direction. And then I followed that direction. I
Yeah.
was, I felt like I was told to do certain things and make certain moves. And then I followed through on that.
Mhm.
And so there were, like, for me, like supernatural support that came into play on my journey that I feel like happens for my students too. And that's kind of like how I work with women, is
Mhm.
helping them to feel aligned in their own
Yeah.
journeys, right? And staying connected to whatever source they believe in, so that
Mhm.
they're allowed to see what that could look like in their lives. And every
Mhm.
single time without fail, it's I it makes me speechless because I'm just like, okay, if this is how it works. Of course,
Mhm.
there's a tactical,
Yeah.
practical things that we teach and that our students learn and implement, but
Mhm.
it's also that supernatural support that God steps in and says, "Oh, you're taking this seriously. I got you."
Yeah, and I love that Bible verse. I know it in Spanish, so I don't know. Probably gonna say it wrong in
Say it
English,
in
but
Spanish. It's fine.
esfuérzate que yo te ayudaré. Like, I guess, like, oh, I shouldn't have said it because I really don't know how to translate it. But it's in Joshua where he tells him like go do your best and I'll be there with you, kind of thing. I'll
Exactly.
help you. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I feel like in my life personally, I've seen that. I started reading more. What does the Bible say about finances? And then,
Mhm.
I started trying to implement those things. And then things, like you said, supernatural things would happen. And I'm like, okay, this was God. Because there's no human way I could have done this on my own.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some limiting beliefs that women often carry about money, and how can they replace them with truth? As someone who works with a lot of women, if you've interviewed a lot of women, was that one or a few limiting beliefs that you see the most?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have all my students read a book called Lies We Tell Ourselves, The
Mhm.
Psychology of Self Deception. So, those limiting beliefs are just lies that we're telling ourselves and that we're listening to. Some of the biggest
Mhm.
ones are that there isn't enough. And that's
Mm.
not true, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty, but it's how are we making sure that we're aligning, right, in our vision to be
Mhm.
able to serve in a way and show up in a way that attracts and that we also command plenty, right? It's because we think
Mhm.
there isn't enough and we're counting other people's pockets as well. So if we're business owners, or even in business, sometimes women don't negotiate salaries, majority of the time. So whether it's
Right.
negotiating a salary in your 9 to 5 or charging accordingly in your business, there is more than enough for you to make whatever amount of money that you want to make. Now, obviously, this isn't unwarranted, just like willy nilly. There's a strategy that has to be put in place for those things to make sense. But beyond, you know, there isn't enough, it goes even deeper when I talk to women and when we start doing this work that's around like deservingness. Like
Mm.
somehow they don't feel like they deserve, or that they're worthy of having what it
Yeah.
is that they want somehow. And
Mhm.
it's a lie. Because if you are somebody's daughter, right?
Mhm.
You are loved so much that there's nothing that you can do to deserve the birthright of being born is worthiness. There's not
Yeah.
action that has to occur for you to earn worthiness. It's inherent
Mhm.
in you being here. So, as a parent, that's easy to say because your baby, you don't think of your baby as worth more when he doesn't cry than when he cries, or when, like he does tummy time
Right.
and he holds his head up and now he's more valuable somehow than when he lays down. Like, it sounds absurd because it is.
Right.
And just because we're
Yeah.
adults doesn't mean that that changes. We are inherently deserving. We are inherently worthy. We are inherently abundant. And the doing of like work and things like that are just outward manifestations of what's going on inside. There's a book called The Illusion of Money, and he says money has only ever come from you. You don't come from money. So when money is
Mhm.
generated, it was because of you having a skill or ability or a talent or sharing or serving. So you're the generator. You can make things happen. So I think that
Yeah.
instead of thinking that something comes from the outside, that is
Mhm.
really focusing on cultivating the inside spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, that will help
Mhm.
get past these limiting beliefs. And the easiest way to replace them is to think about your best friend or someone that you love. So, what would you tell your best friend in the same situation. If your best friend came to you and said, yeah, like, I have this business, but like I know I probably should be charging more, but I don't. What would you say to them when you know that what they do is so amazing that they should be charging more? You'd be like, "Are you crazy? Like what you do is so good. Like definitely you can charge more, and there's people who are going to pay for it. Just make sure that you
Yeah.
communicate how valuable it is or whatever." So talking to yourself like you would talk to your best friend or someone that you love can be helpful in replacing those limiting beliefs, and
Mhm.
then removing yourself from the equation altogether, if that makes sense. So, if earning has to do with solving a problem, if you're in a 9 to 5, your ability to earn and to earn more is at the level of which problems you solve. Stop
Mhm.
making it about you. Either you have a skill or you can learn the skill.
Mhm.
If you're a business owner, you're solving a problem for somebody or some
Mhm.
business. Take you out of the equation because our ego gets involved. Now we're like going down this rabbit hole of whatever. It has nothing to do with you. Your business
Mhm.
is about the people you help and what they need. They don't even care about you to some extent. They want the solution.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
they're
no,
trying to
that's
solve
true.
their own problem. So
Yeah.
take yourself out of it and focus on how you serve. Do it to the best of your ability and command a price that matches the value of what they receive as far as the transformation instead of the time. So
Mhm.
I think that those swaps can be helpful, but it's
Mhm.
like the gym. You need to be in the mental gym. When are you in the spiritual gym? It
Mhm.
can't just be you go to church on Sunday and then for
Yeah.
the rest of the week you don't think about, pray, like it's a gym.
Mhm.
So it's a constant process of these limiting beliefs are going to come up throughout the week, maybe every day when certain situations arise. It's gym time. And now we need to
Mhm.
practice how to replace them, what to do instead.
Yeah, and a lot of it is mindset, even if you have the skills, because
Hmm.
sometimes you're like, "Oh, maybe I just need the skill," and then you get the skill and you're still doubting yourself, like you said, "Am I good enough? Do I deserve this?"
Exactly. Those
Yeah.
little limiting beliefs are so sneaky.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I have a question about emotional wellness, and this one is my favorite because I feel like I tend to do a little bit of emotional spending sometimes. How do emotional wellness and financial wellness connect, and why can't we afford to ignore one for the other?
Whew. Well, they're intricately connected to each other because honestly, most, if not all, spending is emotional. It's
Right.
just some of it is emotional and planned, and some of it is emotional and unplanned.
Mm,
Like, we only really spend money on what we want.
right.
I like being in an air conditioned building, right? So, like,
Yeah.
I pay the energy bill, like I liked this shirt, so I bought it. So I think that there's a uh, understanding that like all spending has to do with what you want. Now there's natural
Mm,
consequences for not spending on certain things. If you don't pay your mortgage, you're going to be behind. Like there's going to be a consequence for it. Um,
mm,
Now, emotional spending and emotional wellness and your ability to spend in alignment with your vision is where things make a difference. Because if you have a goal that you want to see happen, purchasing a home, paying off debt, saving a certain amount for emergencies, delayed gratification is something that is a skill as well and is learned. So if
mm.
we didn't
Yeah.
learn, or it's about being in the gym again, delayed gratification is a muscle. We have to
Mm,
exercise to grow it and utilize it. If you go to the gym, you're going to see the results. If you stop going to the gym, what happens? You're going to stop seeing the results.
mhm,
So, being able to understand the different things that are going on in your life, to know what might affect you emotionally and how to mitigate the fallout of that is key. So, like I said, like, I had gotten divorced, my dad died, just things happening. You should expect a level of or a spike in emotional spending when life happens.
mm,
Transitions, changes, whether it's career, moving, new child, marriage, death, sickness, job promotion. It's pretty much everything. You should just be keeping in mind, how does the things happening in my life affect me emotionally, and how does that emotional difference affect how I spend money?
Mm.
And then when you have more awareness about those things, then you can kind of like prepare better, let me say, right? So we can't say
Yeah.
it's, we can't keep calling things unplanned or unexpected when it's like they typically come around. Like you knew you were moving, like
Mm.
you knew you were
Yeah.
moving. So you should have known that you're gonna probably need to have, you're gonna spend more money trying to get things in the house. Like that comes along with it. You
Mhm.
knew that this thing, unless there is something that's like a death or whatever, we can't expect certain
Mm.
things like that. But we
Right.
know life happens.
Right.
So while things are good, we need to do our best to prepare for when things go left. And
Mm.
that way we have an emotional spending category. How do we make your
Mm.
success inevitable? Okay, plan for emotional spending. Just put it, make it a
Hey.
line item in the budget. Make a sinking fund for it. Every month you put $50 to the emotional spending. So when you see something you like or you want, you're like, oh, I have a bank account for that, or I have a certain amount set aside for that. And if it's more than what's in that account, then because people lack a structure in their finances, there's no
Mm.
filter for how we spend money. That's why it can just go and we are like, oh, how did that happen? Because there's no protocols or procedures or boundaries for what that looks like. But if you work at a company, and I used to work at a nonprofit, and we used to have to get things approved and signed off on.
Mhm.
That if there was a structure, so we couldn't just go buy, this thing for the kids.
Mhm.
We had to follow this structure. If you have no structure and there's no systems and no accountability, well, then baby, the money's going to do what the money wants to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the magic happens when we create the structure for our clients, and it's unique
Mhm.
to them because my structure is different than your structure. Your structure is
Right.
different than asterisk structure, and that's what makes,
Mhm.
because on the internet they're like, oh, do the 50-30-20. Oh, try this challenge. Da, 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 da. There's all these little bits of information being sprinkled around on the internet or whatever the case is. But if
Mhm.
it's not customized to you, it's not going to work for long. And then,
Mhm.
like you said, you're going to revert back into old stuff and find yourself back
Mhm.
on this hamster wheel.
Yeah. No, and it's so true, the customized part. Well, all of it, but especially the customized part because right now you said, checks and balances basically like, you have to get it approved. If I go to my husband and it's something like emotional for both of us, he's gonna be like, "Yeah, go for it." So now I don't have anyone like keeping me accountable.
I love it. But if that
Yeah.
thing, but if that thing is that thing a part of or included in the vision, or is it not? And so I think there has to
Mhm.
be a certain level of leeway or flexibility so that you can invest on things that do add value to your life. Like I never tell someone not to spend money on something that adds value to their lives if they feel like it's
Mhm.
aligned. So I had a student who was spending, she probably made almost like 200K a year. She was spending, I think, at least like four figures a month, maybe, on eating out or something like that. And when she came to our coaching call and she was like, this is how much I'm spending, I was like, okay, so one, are you eating things that your body likes? So, okay, you're eating out or you're someone else is cooking it, great. But is it what your body likes? Is it what's helping you to fuel staying energized and healthy? That's one thing.
Mhm.
But the other thing is it aligned in your vision? Is it helping you get to where you want to go? Or do you
Mhm.
feel like it's holding you back? That's the question you want to ask, because if it's aligned, she was a single mom, she had a toddler, she worked two jobs. So yeah,
Wow.
when is she cooking? She makes almost
Right.
200K. So
Yeah.
how much are you willing to put toward saving yourself the time and energy of cooking every single day, every single
Mhm.
meal, but eat what your body likes if you want to be healthy, which is what you say,
Mhm.
and give yourself permission to spend X amount on eating out guilt free, shame free, if you know it's helping contribute to the vision. Now she was like,
Mhm.
I would like some of that to go to da da da. That's called calculating opportunity cost. The money can go to eating out, or the money could go to paying off debt. The money could go to saving. The
Mhm.
money could go to building your business on the side of your career or whatever. And then when you calculate and you're like, actually I still want to spend $1,000 a month eating out. Okay. And then I want to spend $400 toward X, Y, and Z. Experiment.
Mhm.
Try it out, see how it goes. You could always go back to emotional spending whenever you want. It's not going anywhere,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm thinking about when I was pregnant, I had food aversions. I didn't really have cravings, so I couldn't smell, the chicken being cooked. I couldn't smell
Yeah.
like so my husband, he just stopped cooking at home. We started eating out every day. I think we spent like $5,000
Okay.
just on eating out 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
1 month, and I'm like, what the heck?
Eating out is one of those big budget busters. Again,
Yeah,
though, I'm like, that's one of the life circumstances. When you're pregnant,
mm,
that's a change. Are there
yeah. And
certain
he
things you
was
should
like,
to
but he was like,
adjust?
you ate. He was like, you were
You
fed.
ate. Was it
Yeah,
food that you liked and that was healthy for you and helped you grow your child strong? And so it's like,
yeah.
okay, but now we may have to offset, right? Like on the other side, we're like, okay, well, then we're going to have to make sure that we're making the money and allocating it differently. If we value food but we don't necessarily value X, Y, and Z as much, then we know we're spending
Mhm,
more on food and we're spending less on this thing over here. So it's just like you said, checks and balances, but also making trade-offs on things based on what you value, so that
mhm.
whatever you're doing is aligned. I think food, it's our fuel. So I
Right.
but eat what your body likes. I'm not gonna be like,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead and eat out all the things that your body doesn't like, that makes your stomach hurt or makes you not feel
yeah.
great or makes you sluggish. I don't know. I don't know if that sounds aligned for you wanting to be healthy. Usually my
Mhm.
students, their health is also something that they want to prioritize.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to tell anyone not to do something or what to do, but I
Mhm,
kind of act as a mirror to say, hey, this is what you said your goals are. Is
mhm.
this what you want to do right now based on what you know your goals are? And if the answer is yes, hallelujah, guilt free, shame free, go ahead. If the answer is
Yeah.
no, then you have an opportunity to act in alignment with your vision or act as your current self. There's a book called Be Your Future Self Now. So it's like, how can
Mhm.
you be the version of yourself in the future or in the vision that you have? Because usually that person is a little bit different than who you are today, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I love that. Yeah, and, yeah, I'm just, like, listening to you, and I'm like, yeah, mindset is so important because the way he saw it was, "You were fed, it's okay." And in my head, I'm like, "We coulda gone on a trip."
Right. Well, yeah. And so
Which isn't even, like I don't know. It's like neither one is, like, building wealth, but he's like, "But you were fed." So I'm like, "Okay, you're right."
maybe not building necessarily financial wealth, but then wealth is
Mhm.
beyond finances. So if
Right.
this is a time period, you're only going to be pregnant with that child that time. It's not
Yeah.
happening again. So if there this is more so about opportunity cost, like, and the communication of like, okay, well, like, how do we want this experience to feel, and what do I want to be able to do, or how do we want to be able to do it? Now and you tell your husband, like, next time I want a trip, I'll eat at home and then take me on a trip. And now he knows, you know what I mean, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But that because there is always more available, that okay, this is the choices we made right now, and now moving forward we're aligned to do differently with what we want to earn, because one, you can earn more and you can manage your money differently, make up for, even though there's nothing that's lost, make up
Mhm.
or shift or change, whatever the case is. You becoming a mom has only fueled and is going to take to the next level how you serve and show up in the abundance that's going to be in your life, and all the things that you want to create. That's what we're going to speak, and that's what we're going to expect, and how we're going to move forward. So um,
Mm.
but it has to be filtered through you. So like, what does that look
Mm.
like for you? What do you want? How do you communicate that and have those conversations with your husband? I talk to ladies all the time who are married, and it's like, how are you talking to your husband about finances, and making sure that y'all are on the same page and making choices that you feel like are aligned for you individually, but also as a couple running your household. So yeah,
Mhm.
because again, we didn't learn about how to talk about money with other people growing up either. So
Yeah.
it's another layer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't see that example, Sometimes decisions were taken and the other person wasn't really asked. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, very important. Okay, so what's one simple thing women can start doing today to stop leaking wealth without realizing?
One simple thing women can start doing today
Mhm.
is to get really clear on and honest about what they want.
Mm.
So one of the other things that I see happen a lot is women settling. So when I do
Mm.
calls, I'll ask like, okay, so what do you want? Like, what is your goal? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, okay, is that the goal that you have set because it's realistic, or because it's what you actually want? What do you
Mhm.
actually want? Because you're going to be matched with whatever you say.
Right. Yeah.
So you're going to have a vision that's settled, and then you're going to get that vision, but you're still going to feel unfulfilled. So you really want to be honest about what you want. So maybe this is a day where we get honest and do
Mhm.
one small thing toward that thing. So if you want to become debt free, go make a debt payment, even if it's $1. It sounds crazy, but it's just like the gym. It sounds
Yeah.
crazy to do one jumping jack, but I bet if you did one jumping jack every single day, you'd be
Mhm.
healthier by the end of the year. As crazy as that sounds,
No,
and
yeah.
that if you did one jumping jack every day, maybe you'll do a couple jumping jacks
Mhm.
today or tomorrow in a week. It'll grow, it'll build, it'll snowball. So I think
Mhm.
doing some small thing toward whatever your actual honest vision is today
Mhm.
will make you feel better about yourself, more confident, and help you build momentum over relying on motivation in your money journey.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I can relate because again, going back to our call, you asked me, "What do you want?"
Yeah. What do you
And I
want?
said, "I want this thing." And you were like, "Is that what you really want?" And I was like, "Okay, I really want this thing."
And that felt different, I assume,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it would have
Mhm.
been cool to get the thing that you said you want, but when you think about what you
Mhm.
really want, it does
Mhm.
something to you.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for, because that's what's going to help you stay focused and be less distracted. We had a call,
Mhm.
we got that clarity, and you took action.
Mhm.
There was no consequence for you not taking action other than, like, I guess, waiting, like you would be further
Mhm.
from your goal or whatever. Was it painful
Yeah.
for you to take that action? Did it cost a lot to take that action? Like,
Mhm.
no. But you were
Mhm.
clear on that day. You felt the energy and the clarity of your vision and what you want. So much so that you talked to your husband, y'all got on the same page, you took action, and now that thing
Mhm.
is like a closed tab. Like, give yourself
Yeah.
the peace of mind of being able to close out tabs in your mind that are just running in the background, taking up energy and space?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so what I'm getting is know what it is that you really want,
Yes.
focus, and yeah, that's gonna bring you peace, and that's so true. Yeah. Do you have a specific framework or first steps women can take to start building generational wealth today?
Yeah. So our framework in our community, right,
Mhm.
really has to do with five things: mindset, money, health, wealth, legacy. Now, attending to all those things at once is not realistic. We talked a lot about mindset. So much has
Mhm.
to do with our minds. And if I could say one thing, it would be to evaluate your relationship with money. And so that's the simplest thing that you could do that would make a difference. Well, I don't know, what's my relationship with money? Look at your bank account right now. And then you'll be checking your money mood, is what I call it. When you look at your bank
Mm.
account, how do you feel? And that is some indicator of your relationship with money. Ideally, to some extent, we would be neutral. Whether it was negative or had millions of dollars in it, we'd be like, oh, there's money, or oh, there's not money. But if we feel something when we look at our bank account that tells us where we're at and what we could focus on or what direction we could move in, that
Mm.
and again, I hear a lot of people talk about, and I used to say it and think that way in some capacity, of like taking control of finances. I'm a marriage and family therapist by trade, so I think about relationships and everything.
Mhm.
I've been in a relationship where power and control were a dynamic. I'm not in that kind of relationship now, and I will never be in that kind of relationship again. And so, if we're thinking about money and we're saying take control of money, does money want to be in a relationship with us if all we're trying to do is control it?
Mm.
And
Okay.
so instead of taking control of our finances, what if we took care of our finances?
I like that.
Would money want to be with us more if we were taking care
Mm.
of it instead of some of us being avoidant, negligent, not looking at our accounts at all, and pretending like it's not even there, or just like, ooh, avoiding it? Yeah. The
Yeah.
other side of us we're super anxious and we're like micromanaging, we're holding on too tight, we're not giving it any space to breathe. If you think about money like you think about an actual relationship, is your relationship healthy?
Mm.
That will tell you what to do.
Yeah.
That'll tell you what direction to move in. DM me with your results, and I can steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, so talking about DMing you, how can people reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, to work with me, I am most active on Instagram, and you can contact me directly there via DM. To learn and whatnot on YouTube is where
Mhm.
I've got a lot of great videos and stories to keep you motivated and inspired in your journey to know what's possible and exposed to the fact that women are out here in every season of the economy and the world globally, politically, whatever, are killing it and making progress and getting results, and it's possible for you too. So I always love to think about the internet as like my internet real estate. If you come and check me out on my internet real estate, say hi. Don't come to my house and not say hi to me because that's weird. So regardless of whether you want to work together or not, let me know that you listened to this podcast, and let me give you some gratitude for spending your time with us. It is a precious commodity, but that's the best place to find out about what we got going on.
Okay. So someone who's listening, how do they know they're a good person to reach out?
Yeah, I would say any woman who feels like, you've locked in your career, whether that is either a 9 to 5 or a business, um, and you're like, okay, well, I make money, but like I have no idea where it's going, and
Mhm.
and I don't know what to do with it to keep it or to
Yeah.
grow it, right?
Mhm.
That would be a great candidate to have a conversation to see if it's a good fit, um,
Okay.
and that might be that you are struggling with how to manage your money. It stresses you out, but you want to have freedom and flexibility to live your life on your terms. Then I say that it's possible for you. And even if it's not me that's the best fit for you, my goal is always just to serve and leave you better than I found you. So having a conversation and beginning that process to steer you in the right direction is my end goal at the end of the day. But yeah, any professional woman making money doesn't know what to do with it, needs to get some organization, some clarity, and fill in that knowledge gap is a great candidate. Um, and yeah, if you're like, I think I don't know just reach out. We'll figure it out together.
Yeah. And so you do, it's a 5 week program and then you have lifetime access. Is that how it works?
So our community is open enrollment.
Okay.
However, right now we're
Mm.
getting ready to go live with our annual live cohort. So it only happens once a year if we do it
Oh,
live.
okay.
All
Mhm.
students get access to the pre recorded version of the program if they enroll some other time in the year. And they do get
Okay.
lifetime access because wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint. So you always have access to weekly accountability meetings, you have access to the curriculum, and our community of like minded women who are focused on building wealth without burning themselves out and being able to have that confidence and clarity in their financial journey.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like having a community is so important. Yeah.
Yeah. The cool thing is that that's probably one of the biggest compliments we get
Mhm.
is the community piece. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like they're like, I'm not doing this alone. Like, it's helpful
Yeah.
to see and learn from other people and know that they're
Mm.
supported by just like other amazing women. So it's really cool.
Yeah, because like I said, sometimes we know what we're supposed to do, but we keep procrastinating. But then we see other people
Yep.
and who's now like a part of, we're a part of this community. We're like, oh, she's doing it. Let me go do it. I can do it too. It motivates you.
That's it. The research shows 95% higher rate of success when you have accountability. So,
Wow.
literally, this is why people hire trainers. This is why you get a therapist.
Right.
This is why you get a coach because it nearly guarantees your success. So,
Hmm.
why wouldn't you utilize that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I can speak for that because I've had trainers uh in the gym, and it like I reach a goal in like 3 months, and then I don't have a trainer, and I'm like, it's 3 months later, and I'm like, why am I still not there?
The whole
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. Yeah. So for the woman who feels behind or ashamed about money, what would you say to her right now?
I would say there's another side to all this. And where you're at now is not where you're going to end up if you make a decision, right? The word decision
Mm.
meaning to cut off all other
Yeah.
options to focus on getting to where you want to go. And that means growth, that means some level of discomfort, that means having to fill the knowledge gap and gain some skills or transfer skills. But it's possible. Whatever vision that you have in your mind for yourself is not a cruel trick to torture you. It's a gift given to you to act as your North Star and guide you in whatever direction that you should be going in. So hold on to the vision, find whatever support strategy and systems that are going to help you to be able to experiment with how you can get closer to that vision. And it's 100% possible to make whatever it is happen that you want.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending the time and just teaching us about wealth. And hopefully, someone listening reaches out because I feel like that's something we can all use. I mean, not myself, I know I'm like, I could use some accountability.
We all could. We all could.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for everything. And I hope this was helpful to anyone listening. If it was, share it with someone. Maybe you're like, hey, I know this person should be great for the program. Share it with them. Leave us a comment. Reach out to Jasent if you feel called to work with her. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you guys on the next